Hi guys, Tanya here. I've got a little speed build slash rock garden tutorial for you. I made one recently and this is the beginning of my Narnia island. So it's the Aslan's table, the stone table where he meets his demise. So to start off the rock garden, I mapped out where I wanted the rocks to go. So first I used some stone stools just as little examples of what they might look like, and then laid some hard paths around them. So hard paths are any of the stone paths or the terracotta ones, not the dirt paths. And the reason why you use those is because the stones cannot appear on these. So if you've mapped up around them, you know that the stone will only appear in the blank areas and other areas that you block off using the next method. So once I laid everything out and I've got the table there, I started practicing to see if it would work. So I gave a little hit with my stool, with my shovel. So the next step is to lay out the mannequins. So this is where you use one custom design that later on you'll edit or delete, and that will then remove all the mannequins. So basically you just lay out mannequins roughly every 4 spaces. You'll see I haven't done it exactly like that here or in other parts of the island because I'm kind of working with the spaces. So I tend to do less than 4 spaces between, just to be careful. And then next I ate some fruit and then started the process of hitting the rocks. So it's good to do this after you've done most of your mannequin work, just in case that takes longer than you expect. And then I laid out the mannequins on the spaces where the rocks previously were. And after that, you can just wait or time travel. So in my case, I time traveled. Each day will be a new rock. So this is after 3 days, 3 rocks, that's a good sign. And then this is all 6 rocks in the right place. In my case, I actually had to time travel a bit longer. I had a glitch where the mannequins on the bottom were actually a bit too close to the rock where I wanted the rocks to go. So it was blocking them popping up. They weren't anywhere else, they just didn't show up anywhere. So I had to move the mannequins a bit further, and then the last two showed up. And then time for the magic. So just go back into your custom designs and either delete or edit that specific design, and then magic, they disappear. So that's just why this mannequin approach is my preference. You don't need to go around and remove anything, and you're just ready to start designing. So this is the next day. I then just need to do a ton of work to clean it up and make it look pretty. So the first thing that I did was start removing those paths. Depending on how your design is, you might want to keep the hard paths around the rocks. For this design, I didn't want them there, so I had to just clear them out one by one. So once that's done, I could then start doing some fun path work. So you might have noticed that this doesn't look like the path that ends up in the final design. I ended up changing it. Initially I was thinking that I'd have a bit of a mossy stone look to make it look a bit aged and old, but it looked a bit more cluttered than I wanted it to initially. And then I threw in some other path designs. I think only one of these ends up staying, that kind of bigger mossy stone, but you can just see my process here where I'm trying different things out, and I definitely don't have a clear plan yet, but just an idea. And then it took me forever to find the items that I was looking for. Eventually I found it, the stone arch, and I like that as kind of the entrance to the stone table. And in some of my inspiration pics, like the Narnia reenactment pictures, they have a similar arch in some of the design work. So here I'm just doing a bit more terraforming yeah, I think there wasn't quite enough space for the arch and an entrance, so that's where I'll have a stairwell later on. Yeah, and then the first thing I wanted to place properly was the stone table, because that's kind of the main center point for the whole design. And yeah, just trying to get it in a nice, mostly centered position. And then, yeah, just wanted to test out again how hitting the rocks would work. It serves as a pretty useful backing, so you don't have to keep stepping forwards for while you're digging. While you're hitting the rocks. And then just wanted to plant some trees. I wanted to give it a bit of a foresty feel. I ended up changing some of these trees, you'll see later on. Some of them I wanted to be bigger trees, and some more little ones. But yeah. I also put some dirt pathing under some of the tree points. That was mostly just for my own reference, so I knew where to put the trees. But especially where I was planting a smaller tree, I realized that you might be able to see the dirt underneath it, which wasn't what I was looking for, so just removed it in some spots. And then I added a stone lion. This is to signify Aslan. I felt like in certain perspectives it might almost look like he's on the table, because I don't know if you know that scene, but basically he's killed by the White Witch on the stone table, and then it cracks later on and he's resurrected. So that plasma ball is kind of meant to signify a crack. It doesn't really, but just, yeah, that was the closest thing I could get to. I wish you could put custom paths on items, because it'd be quite cool to put that on the stone table, but anyways, so I then went with these stone lanterns as part of the entrance, and then popped some other decorations. So this garden gnome I thought might look like the dwarves are in the book. So I have a couple of them in this design. And really, I should have cleaned up all of these stones and pieces of iron around, but I guess I just wanted to have a sense of where things might land. And then got a bit of a present. Just more items of clothing that I won't use, but you know, a present's a present. And then started putting out some different types of rocks and other items all around to give it that kind of ruin, like a feeling of ruins, and it's just stone designs everywhere. So yeah, so that was the garden rock, and I also wanted to put out some more natural pieces, so like the grass, like that leaf pile. But then I just wanted to fill the area with some more custom designs to make it feel a bit more cluttered in a way. Like I quite like that cluttered look, but also I think it just creates a bit of life. And then this motherly statue I thought looked like, if you ignore the weird humans underneath, because this is a fake, it just looked like like a wolf hanging out in the area, and the wolf is on the side of the White Witch actually, so it looks quite menacing over there. And then just placing some more rocks. Filling up those spaces. Couldn't quite figure out where to put it. You see I'm and ah about it a little bit. And then I decided I wanted another tree there. In general, I think I wasn't too happy with the tree placement that I had originally. So this is me changing that up. And then I went off and got some more items and some more trees, and then had some more things to plant. So I couldn't decide if I wanted a big tree in the middle of those two cedars or a smaller one. So I think I ended up changing my mind because the three big trees next to each other, just felt quite cramped. So yeah, I decided to put that nursery tree back there. And then I went and found some additional custom paths in the meantime, and some of these bigger ones. Again, these I ended up changing. I think they felt a bit heavy in the area, and like they just didn't quite fit the right vibe. But anyway, still trying it out here, and I had to move the stone arch and some other items to be able to put some custom paths under them. Likewise here with the lantern, I didn't love how it was all kind of off-center from the lantern. Like I kind of like that imperfect feel sometimes, but here it just didn't quite work for me in the end. But again, you're seeing the process. So I wanted to add a couple more pieces underneath the stone arch. And yeah, I mean, I'm really, looking back, I'm really glad that I changed the paths, because this was looking really messy and dark, I think. So yeah, and then I added some tree custom paths, Douglas fir leaves, pine leaves on the ground. I like that custom design because it adds some dimension without being too heavy. Like it blends in sometimes in certain lights. Oops. Yeah, and then decided to add some lighter ones because I think I was already getting the feeling that it was all a bit too heavy. And then moved on to the right side. Trying to add some more custom paths all around. The other benefit of having a lot of custom paths is that weeds and flowers don't grow there. So if you're not looking for that look, then you can kind of control it a bit more. Placing another rock. Basically, this whole area probably cost like 3,000 stones. But I mean, it felt worth it. And then that axe, I just wanted something that looked a little bit like a weapon, because this is an area where, they were ready to fight in this area in the story. So, I wanted to have that feeling. And then adding some more custom paths on the ground. Yeah, so here I was putting some custom designs under items. I quite like the look so that it's not like there are designs all around items and nothing underneath it, because then it looks a bit more like you have just placed it somewhere instead of intentionally really locating it. But then it does mean sometimes I kind of do the double work, so I place everything first, and then once I like the location, then I do the custom paths. But yeah, then I wasn't quite happy with it. I wanted to add some more lighting further back. I realized kind of at night it might look a bit dark. So I placed these stone lanterns closer to the back of this area instead of being right at the front with the stone arch. So then I had to find something else to put in this place. So I've gone with putting that green leaf pile back there, and then I went with some tiki torches because I thought that felt quite warlike. Just like you often have something like that during these kind of medieval times of combat. Yeah, this couldn't get the tiki torch right in quite in the right spot, so had to mess around with that. And then I also realized that this little nook, I couldn't fit anything really there because of the terraforming. So that was kind of annoying me a little bit because it feels a little bit empty, even though there actually isn't space for more stuff. Another tiki torch. Just like, yeah, I really wanted that kind of atmospheric light. And then I thought maybe would it look better if the items were further away from the arch, but turns out no, they don't. And then tried to put something in that area instead to see if that worked. But then I think felt that then looked a bit cramped, so nothing quite worked. And decided to do a bit more terraforming, but first I had to catch this balloon. That was actually quite good. I do like a Zen cushion. So then I went back and fixed up some of this terraforming, added a little bit more space so that I could have the warrior statue a little bit further back. And I think this is a super cool statue. It looks properly like a warrior. I mean, it's after the terracotta army. And then I couldn't get the placement right. It kept not going in the place I wanted it to. So I had to move the torch in the end to get it right. And then move some other stones around. Like it takes quite a lot to get everything feeling in the right space for me. Just playing around with different items, seeing what fits in terms of the different areas. I also like to have different dimensions, so some things are taller and shorter, so that swapping of the rocks was because I had quite a lot of tall rocks on the left-hand side and not on the right, so that was kind of trying to balance that out. And then I wanted to stick another gnome here, but realized he was hidden, so moved him around over to this part. Initially, I didn't want anything within the perimeter of the rocks so that I could still get the full 9 items, or 8 items out of each rock, but eventually I just wanted it to look nicer, so put some things a bit closer than I originally planned. And then this champion's pendant I thought looked kind of like a banner that you might have during wartime, so place that there. And then the last step originally was going to be laying out the incline. So I debated between the stone and the natural ramp, but ended up going with the natural one just because the whole space felt quite natural, and I didn't want something to look too man-made because it's I was trying to create the sense of a hill. So then just taking a bit of money out to pay for the incline. And then just running through the remains of my artist retreat island. If you're interested to see what it looked like before I started rebuilding everything, I've got a tour on my channel. so just check that out. I'll link it here as well. And then when I was putting the incline, I realized that it was a little bit too far to the right, and I wasn't sure if I could just inch it over, and in the end I just had to do a little bit more terraforming to add that space to have the incline a little bit more centered with the whole section. So that was looking good, so I went with that. And then, yeah, just needed to pay our wobbly friend. So with that done, that was most of the construction and design work done, or so I thought. So later on, I then was looking at it and wasn't really that happy, and I found a just different custom path and changed some of the slots that I had. So that's why you'll see there's already the path laid out and not in the right place. So I had to then just pick stuff back up and then relay the custom paths. I really love this circular stone design. I had planned to have it in some part of my island anyways, but I didn't realize I wanted it here because I was originally going for something that was going to be less finished, but I think it still can look quite natural if you lay it out in a more casual way. So then I also had the kind of uneven rocks that match this circular stone path, and I laid those out, and yeah, just so much happier with this design. I think they look lighter and more natural. And yeah, and then I laid out a couple more of these circular bits, even if they weren't perfect circles. I thought the tree could just hide where it doesn't quite end. And then yeah, just placing everything back. Yeah, so then lastly, I wanted to add some weeds just to make it feel a bit overgrown. I didn't want to add any flowers to this area because I thought that would look kind of too pretty, and it's not really meant to be a pretty area. It's meant to be kind of impactful. And so the weeds would give it that dimension instead of flowers. So yeah, I love the weeds the size that they are now. I wish I could keep them from growing really, but yeah, that's not going to happen. I then I think I meant to lay out a transparent path. So yeah, I need to change that into a transparent one later on, and then added some leaf paths. Now the issue with putting the weeds there is it's going to block the rock items from landing there, but I can just pick them up when I'm hitting the stones, so it's not too big a deal. So now I then headed down to look at kind of the edges of this area, starting with the right. I ended up not doing much on the left yet because I'm not too sure what I want to do there yet. But yeah, just for this side. I just wanted to fill it up a bit so that when you're walking underneath, like on the right, that it still feels like some thought and care was made here. Oh. I realized I couldn't plant anything in this area, which is a bit unexpected, so I just laid down something custom. And that was it. So this is the final product. I came back a few days later. I realized I never really filmed a full final shot, and you'll see there are already some changes. So I changed that mossy rock to this mini circular design. I think it's really cute, and it kind of matches the bigger circle design. And yeah, just wanted to show you what it looks like when I'm hitting the rocks, and I get like 2/3 of the items without moving anything, which isn't too bad. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how my Narnia theme is coming along, and that this just feels quite lively. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me for the speed build, and good luck with your rock garden.